Welcome. Thank you to the Apprenticeship Employment Network for hosting the National Skills Week Industry Workshop. Never before has skills reform been more critical to our nation. Ensuring our workforce has the skills we need for the jobs of the future is critical for rebuilding our economy, especially in the post-COVID environment. Collaboration between government, industry and the community will be vital to the success of our recovery. And it goes without saying that the Morrison government is committed to supporting Australians to stay and work. However, we also need Australians better trained for the jobs needed. And to do that, we need real reform when it comes to skills training in Australia. So we have prioritised skills development as part of the JobMaker strategy, which is designed to set Australia up for the economic success over the next 3 to 5 years. Our multi-billion skills package provides a significant boost to the vet sector. This includes our supporting apprentices and trainees wage subsidy that is providing timely, targeted and scalable support to businesses to keep on their existing apprentices and trainees. This builds on the establishment of the National Careers Institute and the National Skills Commission. These two organisations are working together to strengthen, streamline and improve the delivery of and access to careers information in Australia. Again, I'd like to thank the Apprenticeship Employment Network for hosting this industry workshop, and I hope that you enjoyed today's session. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. So today I'll be going through an update to what the service is doing. So I'll be giving an overview of who we are and what we do, and some of the projects that we've got running at the moment that you might hear about in the coming months. Sorry, just make sure I've got things moving. So really reiterating what Gary said, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're all meeting and joining from today, and that is right across Australia. So many different groups of land there. And I'd like to pay my respects to elders past and present. Okay, so as I said, I'll start off with an introduction to AATiS, who we are and what we do. We'll look at some of the resources that we've launched in the past year, including some that are in direct response to the COVID-19 situation. I'll then go through some of our upcoming work and releases that you'll be seeing over the next 12 months or so, and then we can ask some questions. I do have the chat function, the chat box open, so I'll see how well I can multitask. If anyone does want to send me a question in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask me a question as we go through. Otherwise, we can do those questions at the end of the session today. Okay, so an introduction to AATiS. For anyone who doesn't know us, we are the Australian Apprenticeships and Traineeships Information Service. A nice long title. AATiS is obviously much easier to say. We're funded by the Australian Government Department of Education, Skills and Employment, and our role is to provide relevant, accurate and timely information about Australian apprenticeships to anyone who needs that information. So that means that we work with students, job seekers, their influencers, so parents, friends, career advisors and teachers. We also work with employers and we work with the organisations in the sector that need this information. So group training organisations, apprenticeship network providers, RTOs, employment services, a whole range of different stakeholders across the sector. Oh, and I've just paused things again. There we go. So one of our main resources that hopefully many of you are familiar with is the Australian Apprenticeships Pathways website, which can be found at aapathways.com.au. We have a huge amount of information and resources on the website. And when you come through into the homepage, we do have our 4 persona groups right up on the homepage to make it easier for people to navigate through. So from that homepage, if you are looking for information specifically for people working in the industry, I would recommend going to the Industry Insiders section, and that will navigate you through some of those top resources. Or you can use the menu, which can be found up in the top right-hand corner of the page, and that will give you a wider variety of resources you can access there. So the AA Pathways website houses around 2,500 job and training descriptions. So they cover off occupations that can be done as an Australian apprenticeship or traineeship, what's involved in the training, what the occupation is, and a range of information and resources related to that particular occupation. We have job pathway charts, which demonstrate the way that people can move through occupations within an industry or within a sector. And they are both interactive on the website, and we do have PDF downloadable versions which can be customized with an organization's call to action and logo. We have our pre-apprenticeship finder where organizations can list their pre-apprenticeship courses. And if you do run pre-apprenticeships and you're not familiar with our pre-apprenticeship finder, we can help you set up and get your courses up there. It is really quick and easy once you've got the first one up. We have practice aptitude quizzes and now also our literacy and numeracy quizzes, which contextualize literacy and numeracy questions to a variety of industries. So there are over 30 of these quizzes. The practice aptitude quizzes are PDF downloads, and they are quite long. They take, roughly an hour. It does depend on the industry. That information around the length of time is contained in the front of the quiz. But they are really in-depth quizzes, contextualizing literacy, numeracy, and for some of them, general knowledge questions to the particular industry that someone's looking at. The literacy and numeracy quizzes are shorter. There are only 10 questions, 5 literacy, 5 numeracy, and they're much more interactive and easy to use for people coming through onto the website. We have our Career Interest Explorer, which I will touch on in a bit more detail later today, and our Service Provider Search. So the Service Provider Search has categories for providers to list their organisation as apprenticeship network providers, group training organisations, registered training organisations. We will soon to be launching an employment service provider search, and we've got some other career and job search organisations on there as well that you can list as. We do regular checks of the ASIN and GTO search listings against, for the ASINs against the National Register and for the GTOs against the state and federal registers. So all GTOs should be listed on there. Those accounts are accessible by the organisations. So we'll make sure that organisations have an account, but it is up to the organisations to go in there and update details such as their phone number, website, logo, and locations, office locations. So if you are one of those service providers and you want to have a look at your listing, but you're not sure about who the account holder is who has access in your organisation, you can contact us and we could go through that with you. Okay, our next main resource is our AUSAP Pathways mobile application. So this is essentially a slimmed down version of the website where we have access to the job and training descriptions and to the job pathway charts, all through an easily accessible mobile app. One of the really great things about the app is that you can save your favorites. So if you are on the go, going out and talking to people about regularly about the same types of occupations and qualifications, it can be really beneficial to download the app and save those as favorites. The data in the app is updated at the same time as the data on the website, so you don't need to worry about information on the app being outdated, about not reflecting the current approvals for apprenticeships or traineeships, current durations or any of those things. It is automatically updated at the same time the website is. So it is a really fantastic resource for anyone on the go or anyone who is trying to save those favorites and keep them there for reference. The app can be downloaded from the App Store on Apple or on Google Play. So it is quite easy to access both of those. Okay. We have the MyGain YouTube channel and podcast, and I will touch on this a little bit more later in the session. But MyGain, we have been running for quite a number of years now. Many of your organisations will have participated in MyGain videos, including AEN at the awards ceremony last year. And you'll see just at the bottom of the screen, quite a few of those videos are of finalists at the AEN Training Awards. We come out and film videos with apprentices, trainees, employers and service providers, and we're trying to tell stories from across the sector. And this does include coming out to awards ceremonies to talk to participants, both finalists from your Australian apprentices and employers, but also the provider networks who are there, of course, depending on how many people we can get to in one awards ceremony. If you are interested in recording videos, obviously we're in Melbourne at the moment, so we're not going far to do any of this. But once stage 4 lockdown does end, we will be back out onto the road as much as possible recording videos, and I'll talk about podcasts later in the session today. So if anyone does have stories from across the sector, good news stories, interesting stories, showcasing what your organisation does, what your apprentices, trainees and employers do, please do get in touch with us. We do co-brand these videos with the organisations that facilitate us recording them. And I do recommend taking a look at some of the finalists from the AEN Awards last year. They were a fabulous group, and it's really interesting stories from those. Okay, a few of our other activities. So we have an inquiry service. Anyone can contact us 9 to 5 Melbourne time on our 1800 free call number. So if you are looking for information, you're not sure where to find that, you can give us a call. We have our staff answering those phones all day during the business day. We also have a contact form on the website. We have a contact email address, so contact@aatis.com.au. And we are on Messenger. So if you need to get in touch with us about anything, please feel free to send us a message, get in touch with us. We do regularly check the contact form, in fact, multiple times a day. So if you do submit a contact form from the website, we will be getting back in touch with you that day or the next business day. So you don't need to worry about submitting a contact form inquiry and that getting lost in the cloud. We absolutely will be in touch. We are active across social media, so we have Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram and Twitter presences, so please do connect with us across those. The types of content that we promote and share across social media does vary depending on the platform and based on who our key audiences are. So if you are connected with us on one platform, we may be sharing different information on others, so you may wish to connect with us in multiple different locations. LinkedIn is really where we share a lot of our information and resources for people working in the industry, so that's a really good place to connect with AATiS. We have 2 newsletters. We have an Industry Insiders newsletter, which is sent at the end of every month. So if you're not subscribed to that, we do have a newsletter going out tomorrow. So today is the perfect time to subscribe to that Industry Insiders newsletter. We run a range of information sessions, just like this one. So we go out and talk to people, preferably face-to-face when we're able to travel, attending conferences, but we do run a regular webinar series throughout the year. And we are more than happy to come out and or virtually run sessions for your organisations or for your events. We have a range of PDF resources that can be downloaded from the website, the AA Pathways website. And a lot of those resources can be co-branded for your organisation, either with a logo or with a logo and a call to action or some information about your organisation. And we conduct research, and I will be focusing on some of the research projects towards the end of the session. But for those of you who have engaged with us over the past few years, you hopefully will be aware of some of the previous research that we've done into how young people and their influencers access careers information. So that report is up on our AA Pathways website if you are looking for that. And we do have information about our ongoing research projects. Okay. So COVID-19, obviously this has been a huge challenge for the Australian apprenticeships sector and really a lot more broadly, obviously across the whole Australian economy. COVID-19, our response has been focused around information provision, around supporting apprentices and trainees who may have been uncertain about what the future was holding and supporting the service provider networks who were dealing with those apprentices and trainees. So the first response from AATiS was to create a COVID-19 information page on the website. This page has gone through multiple transformations during the past few months, trying to keep on top of all of the changes in information, initiatives, programs, incentives across the Australian apprenticeship sector has really caused quite a number of changes through this page. But we are trying to keep this as updated as we possibly can. The most recent change was a couple of weeks ago, so if you haven't visited this page for a few weeks, you will see it looks a bit different. But essentially, we're trying to focus on the key information and resources in the Australian apprenticeship sector for employers, apprentices, trainees, potential apprentices and trainees, and for the networks working in the sector. You will find in here information about the Supporting Apprentices and Trainees Wage Subsidy, information about the Apprentice and Trainee Re-Engagement Register, both the national register, but we do have state and territory specific information towards the bottom of the page, and you will find the Victorian register run by AEN in that section. We have links to our AATiS Facebook groups, which I believe might be the next slide, so I won't focus on that here. And we are trying to link off and collate all of this information in one spot, so you don't have to go searching through multiple different sources for all of these different types of information. We do have it on the one page so that you can visit us here and then get directed off to the relevant resources. Okay, our active AATiS Facebook groups. So many of you may have joined these groups, and I know we do have quite a number of GTOs that are participating from right across the country. We have two Facebook groups, our active industry with AATiS and our active apprentices with AATiS groups. One focused on the industry insiders and the other focused on apprentices and trainees. Now these groups are designed to keep people engaged. So when COVID initially hit, one of our main concerns was how we were going to keep people engaged with the apprenticeships sector if there were not going to be any available apprenticeships or traineeships, or if there wasn't much movement happening in the sector. So for potential apprentices and trainees, as well as those who might have initially lost their jobs or been stood down. So these groups are a way that people can come together, share information and resources, and stay engaged throughout this time. We will be continuing to run these groups even after COVID has passed, and I think many of you will be in the same situation as us, as we cannot wait until that time that COVID has passed and we're able to review how we run these groups with a less of a COVID focus. It is a way for external organisations and individuals to connect with each other and to communicate directly with apprentices and trainees. So unlike our Facebook page where we run that and we are the ones that share all of that information, in these groups, anyone who joins the groups can share information and resources. It is moderated by staff. You do have to request to be part of the group, and we will approve people, and we can kick people out if they are misbehaving. Luckily, haven't had to do that yet, but as the groups grow, that is a possibility. And we do moderate content that's shared and comments to make sure that there's nothing really inappropriate going on. So we are trying to keep these as a safe space and really focused on a positive, supported environment. And you can join those groups through those links. All of these slides will be available after the session, so you don't have to frantically scribble down any of these links to get through. You can just go through and click on them after the session. Okay, webinars. So as I said, we do run information sessions and webinars as part of our regular offering. During COVID, we did up the number of webinars that we were running. At one stage, we were running a webinar almost every week, either as a public webinar or as an on-demand PD session for an organisation. We are still running our PD sessions. We are happy to organise a virtual session with organisations. So if you have some team members that you would like to get together and ask any questions of our staff, you have anything that you want us to go through, we are happy to organise a session with you and your team, and we can come out virtually at the moment at least and run that session. So happy to discuss any of your needs with that, and you can get in touch with us directly, and I've got contact details at the end, or you can jump onto the events page on the website to have a look at what webinars and information sessions we have up there, and we do have our AATiS PD sessions with some further information and how you can get in touch with us. We are continuing to run our monthly webinars, so we are running a webinar tomorrow around job hunting for Australian apprenticeships in a post-COVID-19 world. So we will have a GTO coming on board to talk about post-COVID-19 job hunting and some of the industry changes there. Okay, sorry, I'm going to have a very quick cup of tea break before I start losing my voice. Okay, And I haven't seen anything pop up through the chat, but let me just check that if anyone's got any questions. So please, if you can, I'm not sure exactly how this works because I am logged in as a presenter, not as the host, but I believe that you should be able to send me a message in the chat or send a message to everyone if you do have any questions. So please do pop those in there. Okay, so what else is new? So as well as COVID-19, AATiS has continued our regular suite of works, which does mean that we have launched some new products as well. Some of these have actually been launched during COVID, but not as a direct response to COVID. These are things that we've had planned for quite a while. So different section here. Okay, our FAQs. So these were launched at the end of last year, before COVID had reared its head. So a very nice early change that we made to the website in the last year for us. So I frequently asked questions. When you go to the first page of the FAQs, you will find 6 different categories based on user types. So we have separated out questions based on the type of user. So we have an industry insider section. We have a section for current apprentices and trainees, for students, job hunters, parents and friends, and educators. So we do have a range of different types of questions and information based on the type of user that might be asking those questions. We've collated our most commonly asked questions through our inquiry service. So because we do have people directly contacting us for information, we have used that as the basis for these questions. We are always looking for input onto new content for this section. So if you think we should be answering something on the FAQs and you can't find it there, please do let us know. Get in touch with us. We will answer your question on the spot, and then we will also add it up to the FAQs section as well. So please do let us know if there's anything missing. But if you can't find anything on the website or you're looking for a really quick way to get through to anything, the FAQs is a really fabulous way to move through to all of that content. And you will find that in the main menu as well. In March, we relaunched MyGain. So you will have seen from March onwards, we have some fresh branding. And we also launched our new podcast. Now, unfortunately, we were planning a fabulous launch event here in Melbourne for late March, and that did need to get cancelled. So we did do a soft launch via social media. We had a Facebook watch party, which many people joined. Some of you might have joined that event. And that was a really fantastic way to highlight some of our videos and to launch our new podcast channel. So the aim of the podcast is the same aim as the MyGain videos. We're telling stories from across the sector. So hearing from apprentices and trainees, employers, and people working across the industry. With COVID, we have focused on the podcast a lot more than we have on the videos because we aren't going out to film these kinds of videos. So we do have a number of podcasts up there. If you are looking for some interesting listening during your work day or, to relax after work finishes, please do jump onto the podcast. We've got a new podcast up there this week around National Skills Week. We do have an excellent podcast as well with Gary from AEM from a few weeks back as well. So there is a range of information. If you've got a story you'd like to tell, a topic you'd like to talk about, get in touch with us. We're always looking for content for our podcasts as well as for our videos. So we really love you and hear what ideas that you've got for stories across there. Podcasts are recorded remotely, so it is jumping onto a Zoom or a Skype meeting and having a chat with one of our marketing staff, so with Cass or with Ryan. And they'll run you through some questions. They'll produce the episode. If you say anything wrong, if you say something that you don't want to go into the podcast, it's very easy to cut those bits out. It's a really relaxed environment. I've had to do a couple of these myself now, and it's really easy to re-record sections, to spend a few moments working out what you really want to say. And of course, you will have already agreed on a topic before the session with Cass or Ryan. So we're not springing anything on you. Excellent. I've just got some questions coming through. So I will go through a couple of those in a moment. I'll just get through this quick section. Okay, the AATiS blog was launched a couple of months ago. Again, with the blog, we are targeting different posts at different groups of individuals. So you'll see we've got a couple of posts up here for industry insiders, job hunters, employers. We will also have posts for students, for parents and friends, for educators and career advisors. So a range of different information in those posts. So in our blog, we're really trying to write about topics of interest across the sector. What's coming out, what's being released, can we contextualize it for people? Can we talk about why these kind of things are of interest? So they're less newsworthy in many cases. We do still have our news section of the website where we are talking about new releases of information, new initiatives, new programs. This blog section is really where we could go into a bit more detail and contextualize some of these topics. It is a proper blog section, so once you go into the post, you can read the blog, you can ask a question, make a comment, you can interact with other readers, you can interact with our staff who are moderating and monitoring those questions as well. So that's another way that you can get information out of us, is to jump in there and to ask questions, leave comments. And if you've got ideas for topics that you'd like to hear about as well, let us know and we can do some on-demand blog posts. Okay, our Careers Bulletin newsletter. So as I mentioned earlier, we do have our Industry Insiders newsletter, which is released monthly, which focuses on news and events from the industry that are relevant for the industry. We, until a couple of months ago, did not have a newsletter that was aimed at our general public users, so our career researchers, job hunters, and their influencers. So the Careers Bulletin newsletter is filling this gap. It is targeted at those general public users, so we're not targeting it at people working in the industry, but of course you are welcome to sign up if you are interested in this newsletter. We are focusing on job hunting, on career exploration, on staying engaged in the industry or in the apprenticeships sector during this time, and this will be a monthly newsletter in an ongoing manner. So you can subscribe to both of our newsletters, the Careers Bulletin and the Industry Insiders newsletter, on our Contact Us page through this subscribe link here as well. And our AATiS school guide. So our school guide was released towards, I believe, the end of June, although I actually can't remember the exact dates now. But our schools guide is one of these products that we've been really wanting to get released for quite a while. And it has taken a huge amount of time and resourcing to get together something that would last over time and that would really have the key information that schools, career advisors and teachers need when they're considering Australian apprenticeships. So we have a range of information in the start of the schools guide around what apprenticeships are, talking about pre-apprenticeships and school-based apprenticeships, and going into some of the details about those particular topics, and then also referring people off to further information. We have a section on resources for career advisors. So what information and resources can they find for themselves? And then we also have resources around career research and job hunting. So a range of information and resources there. The schools guide is available as a PDF download from the AA Pathways website, so you can follow that link. You can also request a copy either by getting in touch with us directly, or there is an order form on that page as well. So you can request a hard copy. One of the key things about this school guide is that they're not intended to hand out to students. So this really is the type of resource that someone working in a school or with career researchers, job hunters, can get a copy of this guide for themselves and refer back to it over time. So that's really the intention of this. We're really not aiming to hand this out to a lot of people. We do have other resources that are more suitable for that. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to take a moment to have a look. Excellent. So I see that we've got a few people in the chat. Someone who's quite interested in mature age workers, including those with a limited employment history. So if anyone wants to respond with their particular opinions here as well or information, please do go for it. But look, certainly the question here is, what would your suggestions be for mature age workers, including those with a limited employment history, because employers can be less willing to employ them as an apprentice or trainee? So I would say the first thing, and this is something that we do get a lot, is what the definition of a mature age worker. I know commonly used in the general public as someone who might be a bit older, but remember your adult worker is someone over 21, and for purpose of incentives, mature age is over 45. And there are some additional incentives available for workers of both of those age groups. They may not be available for everyone, but do definitely have a look into that, because that can sometimes tip an employer over into considering taking on a mature age worker or an adult worker. Look, a lot of employers are going to be reticent to take on someone of that age group, particularly because of the higher wage that they will need to be paying them. We do find, I think the statistics show that around a quarter of trade apprentices and higher than that in the non-trade areas are of people over the age of 21. So in that higher, over the age of 25. So in that higher wage bracket. So there certainly are opportunities for older apprentices and trainees. The real key thing here is to find an employer who is more willing to take on someone who can show any skills that they have developed over their lifetime, even if it's not in a formal work environment. So if they can demonstrate that they are really passionate about the occupation that they're going into, they can demonstrate that they will be reliable, if they can demonstrate some of those other employability skills that an employer may be willing to take on. We do typically see that larger employers are more likely to take on an adult or mature age apprentice or trainee. Typically the wage has less of an impact for them. So definitely, if you are looking for an apprenticeship as someone who is an adult or mature age worker, there are a couple of tips, but we do have a section on the website for adult apprentices, and one of our staff can have a chat with you about some of these topics in more detail as well if you give us a call later today. So, and anyone that has other tips, please jump into the chat and send them around to everyone. Okay, so I'm going to jump back into the presentation. Okay, so ongoing and upcoming work. So here at AATiS, we always have projects on the go. If you are looking for information on anything that we have upcoming, or you've got ideas or suggestions for new information, new resources, new projects that you think we should be running, please get in touch with us. We're always looking to develop information, resources, and projects that are of use and of interest to our wider stakeholders across the sector. Okay, so employers. We have traditionally spent a lot of time talking with career researchers and job hunters. So trying to encourage school students and career researchers to consider an Australian apprenticeship as a pathway for them. I'm sure many of us will know about some of the issues with particularly school students really aiming to go to university rather than to go through into an apprenticeship or traineeship, even when the apprenticeship or traineeship would be a much better option for them. So we do try and work a lot with those job hunters, schools, school students, career researchers and their influencers to encourage them to consider an Australian apprenticeship. When COVID-19 hit, it was very quickly obvious that we were going to have very few jobs and a lot of job hunters. And I have no doubt that every one of you has had the exact same experience. So we have decided to adjust some of our communications. Instead of focusing so much on potential apprentices and trainees, they are still a key stakeholder group and we're not ignoring them, but to focus a bit more on those potential employers of apprentices and trainees. Our aim with this employer communications campaign is to encourage potential employers to consider taking on an apprentice or trainee when they start rehiring after COVID. So for someone who maybe, in a downturn now, we are all hoping, and the government is predicting, an upturn in the near future. It doesn't feel like that in Victoria at the moment, some days, but the rest of the country is in many places already in that upswing, and we will be there soon. I'm very hopeful of that. So we want to encourage employers to take on an apprentice or to consider taking on an apprentice when they do have that upswing again. Now, here at AATiS, we are an information service. We don't take on apprentices or trainees ourselves. We are not an ASIN, we are not a group training organisation, we are not an RTO, we do not work in that area of Australian apprenticeships. So for us, this campaign is really about encouraging employers to consider an apprentice, to inform them about the benefits of Australian apprenticeships, to create new opportunities, and then to link them through with the GTO and ASIN networks and those other networks in the sector that can support them. So in a sense, this is a campaign that we are hoping to create more work, more business for all of the other organisations in the sector. If you are interested in understanding a bit more about how we're going to be doing these communications, this will be an ongoing communications campaign over the next year, and there will be some peaks in that. You can contact us at marketing@atis.com.au. You can request a copy of our campaign playbook and have a chat with our marketing team around what is happening in that employer communication space. We are, as of today, launching a new research project. So this project is looking at employer readiness. So are employers ready to take on a new apprentice, and what information do they need to be ready to take on a new apprentice or trainee? So the first stage of this research, and I should say that this has not been released yet, so you are the first group of people to hear about this particular project, which will be released this week and next week, going out to a much wider audience. The first stage is to understand what is the most important information that employers need when they consider taking on an apprentice or trainee. And we are asking this of stakeholders in the sector. So those of you working with GTOs, ASINs, RTOs, employment services, industry bodies, anyone who's working with employers of apprentices and trainees and potential employers, we want to know what is the most important information that we need to be giving those employers. So this is beyond a simple benefit statement to get an employer to consider an apprentice or trainee, which is what a lot of that campaign is working on. This is that next step. So they're interested in taking on an apprentice or trainee. What do we need to be telling them before we send them to you? What are the most important pieces of information, and how do we get that across to them? So this particular survey, it's quite short. It will only take you a few minutes, and it will be going out, as I said, this week and next week. So please do take the survey if you receive it. It will assist us in developing resources and messaging that will support organisations who work with employers. We do have an employer section on our website. We will be reviewing the content in that section based on responses. We are aiming that section is extremely comprehensive, but also easy to access for employers. As part of this project, we will be creating a new employer readiness quiz. So we know that people love doing quizzes. It doesn't seem to matter, whether someone is a student, a job hunter, or an employer. We do find a lot of people that love going through a quiz. And we will be developing this new interactive quiz for employers to self-assess whether they are ready, whether they do have that information to take on an apprentice or trainee. Part of that will, of course, be making sure that they are aware of the provider networks. So this research will be going out very shortly. You will have a sneak peek of this. The survey is available up on our website, aapathways.com.au/employer survey. And you can find it in our data and research section of the website. Please do take the survey. It really will only take a couple of minutes. Share it around with other people who are working with employers in the sector. This will be really helpful for us in developing our new information and resources, and in turn, hopefully in supporting all of you in the networks working with employers. Okay, Okay, some more research. So our Parents Research Project, some of you may have heard about this before. I may even have talked about it at the AEN mid-year conference last year, where we are working with parents in this research project to understand their perception of the future of work and vocational education and training. So do parents have particular perceptions or opinions about the future of work, and how does that affect whether they're encouraging their children to go through a vet or Australian apprenticeships pathway versus a university pathway? Now, this project was halted due to COVID, as mainly due to the reason that parents' opinions about the future of work were going to rapidly change when COVID hit, as a lot of industries shut down and people lost their jobs. We certainly found that people were really focused much more on the immediate needs rather than longer term perceptions of work and longer term careers, and that those very rapid shifts in the Australian economy were going to influence people's perceptions. So we have shut this down, had to shut this down. We have now reopened the parents' research in order to continue understanding how these topics interrelate with each other. So if people have a particular concept of the future, say that it's going to be technology driven, that it's going to be very white collar, would that then encourage them to steer their children towards a university pathway? Whereas if they see that it's going to be impacted by technologies, but that we're going to need a lot of technicians, we're going to need people working in technical trades with high level skills, would that then encourage them to support their child doing a vet or an Australian apprenticeships pathway? So these are the types of things that we're trying to detangle through this research project. And the ultimate aim of the project is, again, to further enhance our messaging and resources for parents to influence their perceptions and then in turn to influence what they support their children to do. So an ongoing research project, one that some of you would have heard about before, but we are kickstarting it again now that things have settled down a little bit. It will be very interesting for us. We did have quite a good number of responses before COVID started. So tracking how that perception has changed due to COVID will certainly be a very interesting but initially unanticipated outcome of this particular research project. Okay, our Career Interests Explorer update. So hopefully some of you are familiar with our Career Interests Explorer, one of our very popular sections of the website. So career researchers could go through this Explorer, identify how interested or not interested they are in different types of work, in different tasks. And then at the end of this survey, it will give them a result of what work types are they most interested in, down to least interested. And then they could go through and explore industries and occupations related to those work types within the Australian apprenticeship sector. It is a fabulous quiz. We've had hundreds of thousands of people go through this quiz, but it is quite long. And this is something that I've been looking at for a while is, for me personally, I think it's a fabulous quiz, but I think it can be cut down. So we are running a project at the moment through a survey of career researchers, so students, career changers, people considering their career options, to identify which questions may be able to be removed from this particular survey and still keep a valid set of questions and a very reliable survey for people to go through. So that is one aim of this particular survey, is to be able to enhance and validate the Career Interests Explorer and to shorten it. But at the same time, we're also trying to understand how these different work types relate to industries. So using the ABS ANZIC industry classifications, which are used by, for example, Job Outlook, and I believe potentially by the National Careers Institute, and also how these work types relate to training packages, so where the qualifications sit under those. So this project, again, has been kicked off for a couple of months, but on a relatively slow burn. We will be picking this up and promoting it a lot more in the coming months to try and get some really good data out there. And we will be presenting that data as well as doing the shortened version of the quiz. So for anyone interested in that particular one, you will be able to get those results. Okay. I think this is one of our last slides here, is around environmental sustainability. So here at AATiS, we have a number of values that we try and demonstrate through all of our work, both in terms of our information and content, but through the way that we work. And environmental sustainability is something that's really close to all of our hearts. We are running a project at the moment which has two parts. The first is to promote environmental sustainability through industry information through apprenticeship and traineeship pathways to highlight where career researchers, job hunters and employers can focus their research in environmentally sustainable industries and occupations if they're interested in that. We will be running a webinar in September, so in just about a month's time, around environmental sustainability and Australian apprenticeships. And we currently are also working on creating and updating some industry information on, again, creating and updating some job and training descriptions that really focus on environmentally sustainable occupations. And we will be aiming to record a range of MyGame videos and podcasts that relate to environmental sustainability in the Australian apprenticeship sector. At the same time, AATiS is aiming to work in a more environmentally sustainable manner through our work. So we are committed to reducing, for example, the number of printed resources that we provide. So all of our resources will be provided in online manners, as well as a printed resource for when someone does need that, but making sure that that printed resource is the best quality in environmental manner that we can. So for example, our schools guide, we ensured that that was printed on a recycled paper with, I can't remember the exact term here, but it was an environmental type of ink that was used for that schools guide. So for those of you that have got a copy of that schools guide, rest assured that the hard copy is as environmentally friendly as we can make it. But if you don't need a hard copy, if you do have a hard copy, cherish it, make sure you look after it. If you don't need a hard copy, it is available for download as well. So there are a few of the ways that we're going to be acting to make sure that AATiS is more environmentally sustainable. I'm also doing things like enhancing our virtual communications through these kinds of sessions rather than traveling as much. I think COVID's really shown everyone that our virtual sessions can work really well. That doesn't mean that we're going to be cutting out a whole range of our activities, but we are going to be more conscious of making sure that we, as an organisation, are working in a sustainable manner and that we are promoting sustainability through our work. Okay, virtual information sessions, a nice lead on for the last slide. So you're all here watching me talk about AATiS through a virtual information session. For those of you who have come along to one of our in-person information sessions in the past, they are fabulous. We do get everyone in a room, we have a great chat, we go through a lot of our resources. That's not something we're going to be able to do anytime in the near future, unfortunately. But in November this year, we are going to be running a round of information sessions like we typically would when we go out to each state or territory, to each capital city and some of those regional centres and talk to people about what's happening in their state, contextualising some of our information and resources to the state that we're in. So we will be running those sessions, but they will be in a virtual environment, so you'll have to put up with us all on screen, hopefully not looking quite so pixelated, I guess, as this particular version that I'm showing you. But we will be running those sessions in addition to our webinars. We will be aiming to make them a lot more interactive, to really work to run them as workshops so that people can have that similar type of environment that they would have if you came along to one of our in-person information sessions. So they will be coming up in November, so still a couple of months away. We're not taking bookings for them quite yet, but we will be making sure that all of these sessions are really widely promoted. So have a look. I'm sure we will be asking Gary if he can pop them into the AEN newsletter. We will be promoting them ourselves as well through our events page, through our newsletters and our social media. We're aiming to launch our initial research findings from the Employer Research Project, and we will also be launching some new resources, some that I haven't talked about here today. So there are some other projects that are going on that are a little bit of a secret at the moment, and you're going to have to come along to one of those information sessions at the end of the year to hear about all of those. Okay, so here's how you can connect with us and hear about all of this fabulous work that we're doing. Get in touch with us, tell us what you need, what your input is into any of this. So you can connect with us on LinkedIn via our showcase page at AATiS. Connect with us on our Active Industry Facebook group. And you can also subscribe to our newsletters, both the Industry Insiders and the Career Bulletin newsletter on our subscribe page, or you can submit an inquiry through there as well. Okay, this is the point where I hope that someone has a question. We've got about just over 5 minutes that I can answer any questions that people want to throw through to me. I'm just having a look at the moment. I don't see anything else that's come through the chat. If anyone has a microphone on, you can also ask a question out loud as well, or pop them into the chat if you'd like. Otherwise, you're going to have to listen to another 5 minutes or so of me talking non-stop, and no one really wants to do that on a Wednesday morning, do they? Okay. Nope.
No, it looks like they're a quiet bunch, Peter.
They are a quiet bunch, Nick. Do you have any questions for me today?
No, not questions as such. More comments and statements. We're happy to promote those events and sessions that you're running through the newsletter. We often we've got a mutual arrangement there with promotion. And yeah, look, everyone, we do encourage you to take a look at all the great resources that AATiS have put together. It's the website is certainly one of our go-tos, and we certainly refer a lot of people there. And I think we also get some people sent back to us after we've done that as well. Not a comment on the information, but just more, they look at group training as an option as well. So yeah, if you haven't already, we do encourage you to check all that out and do subscribe to the newsletter and connect with AATiS through the social media platforms. There's a great wealth of resources and information there. So yeah, look, if no one has any questions, Peter, did you have any last closing remarks?
No, just if you do want to get in touch with me directly, you can do so at peter@atis.com.au. But again, please, all of our staff answer the 1-800 phone number, so you can give us a call on there. We do answer the contact form, the contact email address, messenger. So, we try and make it really easy to get in touch.